They were laughing
I
at
can
her
translate
shoes.
for you for
Eleanor Shepard stood in the
$600.
center of the 47th floor boardroom at Hathaway International, and she could hear them.
This
The
contract
whispers, the stifled
states
giggles, the woman
the
in the
terms.
cream blazer who wasn't even trying to hide her contempt. Those shoes are 2 sizes too big. Stuffed with newspaper. Did you see? 12 years old. And Eleanor had learned to make herself small, invisible, forgettable. But today she needed to be seen. Because rent was due in 4 days, and her 6-year-old brother had eaten the last of their food this morning, scraping peanut butter from an empty jar with his small, hungry fingers. $600. That's what the advertisement promised. $600 that meant the difference between survival and the streets. The man at the head of the table, Damien Corleone, billionaire, venture capitalist, the kind of man who probably spent more on lunch than Eleanor's entire life was worth, looked at her like she was a stain someone had forgotten to clean. And then he laughed. Not a polite chuckle. A real laugh, sharp and cruel, that cut through Eleanor like broken glass. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice smooth as expensive whiskey. "But who let a child in here? This is a multimillion-dollar negotiation. Not bring your daughter to work day." The room erupted. Laughter bounced off marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a city Eleanor would never be able to afford. 8 adults, dressed in clothes that cost more than her mother's funeral, finding hilarity in a 12-year-old girl's audacity to think she belonged. The woman in cream didn't even look up from her tablet. "Someone call security. This is embarrassing. Hello, my lovelies at Ducal Tales. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comment and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. You are helping us to reach thousands whose voices are not heard." Eleanor's hands were shaking. The canvas bag on her shoulder, containing a worn Russian-English dictionary, a notepad, and $17 that was supposed to last until next week, suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She could leave. Should leave. Walk out of this room full of people who saw her poverty like a disease, who looked at her second-hand dress and broken shoes and decided she was nothing. But then she thought of Thomas. 6 years old, with their mother's green eyes and a solemnness that broke Eleanor's heart every single day. Thomas, who pretended not to notice when Eleanor didn't eat so there would be more for him. Thomas, who'd asked her yesterday if they were going to be okay. And she'd lied and said yes. Eleanor lifted her chin, met Damien Corleone's dark, amused eyes. "I can translate," she said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted, but it didn't break. "I speak fluent Russian. Technical terminology, legal documents, medical." "Sweetheart." The woman in cream finally looked at her, and her smile was all pity wrapped in contempt. "This isn't a school project. We need someone with credentials, with experience. Not a little girl who probably learned a few phrases from YouTube videos." More laughter. Harder this time. Meaner. "Her mother probably pushed her to do this," someone muttered. Eleanor's breath caught. Her mother, Professor Anna Shepard, who'd taught Slavic languages at the university before the cancer, who'd read Tolstoy to Eleanor in the original Russian before she could ride a bike, who'd died 2 years ago, drowning them in medical debt that swallowed everything. Their home, their savings, their future. "My mother is dead," Eleanor said quietly. The laughter stopped, but only for a moment. "Then who's responsible for you?" Damien leaned back in his chair, studying her like an interesting insect. "Because letting a child come here, dressed like..." He gestured vaguely at her. "This, thinking she can handle corporate translation? That's neglect." Something inside Eleanor cracked. Not broke, cracked. And through that crack, fury poured like molten steel. "Give me one document," she said, louder now. "One paragraph. If I can't translate it perfectly, not just accurately, but with context, nuance, and technical precision, I'll leave. You'll never see me again." Damien's eyebrows rose. Around the table, the adults exchanged glances, half amused, half curious about how far this absurdity would go. "This should be entertaining," Damien said. He pulled a thick folder from his briefcase, extracted a single page, and held it out. "Technical contract regarding nuclear energy infrastructure. It contains terminology that makes most professional translators struggle." But please, his smile was cruel. Give it your best shot. Eleanor walked forward. The room felt enormous, every step an eternity. She was acutely aware of every eye on her, every whispered comment about her clothes, her age, her audacity. She took the document from his hand. He pulled back quickly, like touching her might contaminate him. The page was dense with Cyrillic text, technical jargon about reactor cores, regulatory frameworks, international safety protocols. The kind of document that would take most people hours to translate properly. Eleanor read it once. Then she looked up at Damien Corleone's smug, certain face, and she began to speak. The Russian flowed from her lips like water, like music, like something that had been sleeping inside her and finally woke. Not just translation, transformation. She didn't just convert words. She explained subtext, caught diplomatic implications, identified 3 grammatical errors that suggested the original document had been poorly translated from English by someone not quite fluent. She spoke for 3 minutes without stopping, without stumbling, with a precision and confidence that turned the air in the room to ice. When she finished, silence. Complete, absolute, devastating silence. Damien Corleone was no longer smiling. His face had gone completely blank, those dark eyes wide with something that looked like shock, maybe fear, definitely recognition that he'd just made a catastrophic mistake. Around the table, mouths hung open. The woman in cream had actually dropped her tablet. It lay face down on the glossy wood. Screen cracked. Forgotten. That's... Someone started. Impossible. Another voice finished. Eleanor stood perfectly still, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. She'd done it. She'd proven herself. She'd made them all look like fools. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that the man staring at her with dawning horror and reluctant admiration was about to offer her something that would save her life and nearly destroy it. And that in 3 days, everything she thought she knew about Damien Corleone, about safety, about trust, would shatter in ways that would force her to choose between survival and truth. Because some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. Would you have stayed in that room? Or would you have run? The apartment Damien provided wasn't just better than what Eleanor and Thomas had known. It existed in a different universe entirely. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. Hardwood floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers. The kitchen had appliances Eleanor had only seen in magazines. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a study lined with empty bookshelves waiting to be filled. Thomas stood in the center of the living room, spinning slowly, his small face stunned into silence. "Ellie," he whispered finally, "is this real?" Eleanor knelt beside her brother, smoothing his wild hair. At 6 years old, Thomas had their mother's green eyes and a solemnness that broke Eleanor's heart. He'd grown up too fast, learned too young that the world was hard and money scarce and that his sister carried weights no 12-year-old should bear. "It's real," she said softly. "We're safe now." But even as she said it, doubt gnawed at her stomach. Nothing this good came without a price. She'd learned that lesson the hard way. The doorbell chimed. Actual chimes, not the broken buzzer of their old place. And Eleanor opened it to find a woman in her 50s, silver hair pulled into an elegant bun, carrying bags from stores Eleanor couldn't afford to walk past. "Miss Shepherd? I'm Grace Wellington, Mr. Corleone's personal assistant." Her smile was warm, genuine. "I've brought clothes for you and your brother, and groceries. Mr. Corleone thought you might need a few essentials." Essentials turned out to mean designer clothes, fresh food enough to stock the massive refrigerator, and school supplies for Thomas that probably cost more than their old monthly rent. Grace didn't pity them. She simply helped put things away, showing Eleanor how the complicated appliances worked, explaining that a tutor would arrive tomorrow morning and that Damien wanted to meet with her at his office the following afternoon. "He's not what people think," Grace said as she prepared to leave. "Mr. Corleone, the media shows the billionaire, the deal-maker. They don't show the man who pays for his employees' children's college tuition, who visits sick kids at the hospital every Sunday, who hasn't forgotten where he came from." After Grace left, Eleanor stood at the window watching the sun set over the park, Thomas asleep in his new bed, A real bed, with clean sheets and soft pillows. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sleep well, Eleanor. Tomorrow your new life begins. D. She should feel grateful. Relieved. Instead, she felt like she'd made a deal with someone whose true face she hadn't yet seen. The next afternoon, Eleanor arrived at Corleone Tower wearing one of the outfits Grace had brought. A simple navy dress that actually fit, with shoes that didn't pinch. The receptionist smiled at her this time, no longer seeing a poor girl in borrowed clothes, and directed her to the top floor. Damien's office was all glass and steel, modern art on the walls, a view that stretched to the horizon. He stood at his desk in shirt sleeves, tie loosened, studying documents that covered every surface. Eleanor. He looked up, and something in his expression softened. How's the apartment? It's... She struggled for words. Thomas cried. Happy tears. He's never had his own room before. Damien's jaw tightened. No child should have to live like you two did. That's over now. He gestured for her to sit, then handed her a folder. Your first assignment. Russian Energy Consortium wants to partner with 3 American companies. I need you to review these contracts, translate them, and tell me if anything feels off. Russians are brilliant at hiding poison pills in technical language. Eleanor opened the folder, scanning the dense Cyrillic text. Her mother had taught her this. Not just to translate words, but to read between them, to sense when language was being used as camouflage. This clause here, she said after 10 minutes. It looks like a standard arbitration agreement, but the phrasing gives them unilateral power to change terms. And this section about intellectual property, they'd own any innovations developed during the partnership, not just the ones related to the project. Damien leaned forward, impressed. Most translators miss that. They translate what's written, not what's meant. My mother said translation is about understanding intention, not just vocabulary. She sounds like she was remarkable. She was. Eleanor's voice caught. She died 2 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. By the time they caught it, there was nothing they could do. The medical bills. She stopped. That's why we lost everything. Damien was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. My father had a heart attack when I was 15. No insurance. The hospital wouldn't treat him without payment up front. By the time I'd stolen enough money to cover it, he was dead. Eleanor's eyes widened. You stole 3 convenience stores. He met her gaze without flinching. Got caught on the 4th. Judge gave me a choice, juvenile detention or a program for gifted kids from bad circumstances. That program saved my life. Gave me an education, mentors, a chance to be something other than what poverty had planned for me. Is that why you helped me? Partly. Damien stood, moving to the windows. But also because I saw something in you. A fire. You could have begged, could have played the victim. Instead, you demanded to be tested. To prove your worth. That kind of courage is rare, Eleanor. Especially in someone so young. He turned back to her. I won't lie to you. The work will be hard. The people we deal with are dangerous. Oligarchs, corporate raiders, people who've killed for less than what you'll know about their business. You'll see things that will age you even faster than poverty already has. I'm not afraid, Eleanor said. You should be. His expression turned serious. But I promise you this. I will keep you safe. You and Thomas. Whatever happens, whatever you see or learn, I will protect you both. Sounded like a vow. Like a promise made with something deeper than words. Eleanor nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Good. Damien's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went carefully blank. I have to take this. We'll continue tomorrow. Grace will drive you home. As Eleanor stood to leave, Damien's voice stopped her at the door. Eleanor? Thank you for trusting me. She looked back at him. This man who'd laughed at her 3 days ago and now looked at her like she mattered. Thank you for seeing me, she said quietly. But as the elevator descended, carrying Eleanor away from Damien's office, she didn't notice the figure watching from across the street through a telephoto lens. Didn't see the photos being taken or the encrypted message being sent. Corleone has hired the girl. Initiate Phase 2. The game had begun, and Eleanor Shepard had just become the most valuable and most vulnerable piece on the board. Eleanor's new routine felt like living in a dream that might shatter at any moment. Mornings began with a tutor, Professor Ashford, a kind woman with silver-streaked hair who didn't condescend to Eleanor despite the age difference. Mathematics, literature, history, subjects Eleanor had been teaching herself from library books now had structure, depth, guidance. Thomas thrived at his new school. He came home each day with stories about art class and new friends and a teacher who said he was gifted. The hollow look that had lived in his eyes for 2 years was finally fading. Afternoons, Eleanor worked at Corleone Tower, translating documents, sitting in on video conferences with Russian businessmen who had no idea the translator was 12 years old. Damien kept her presence quiet, camera off during calls. Her voice the only clue to her existence. She was good at it. Better than good. She caught nuances that saved deals, spotted deceptions that protected millions. 3 weeks passed in this strange new life. Eleanor began to breathe easier, to believe that maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. Then came the Thursday that changed everything. Eleanor arrived at Damien's office to find the door slightly ajar, voices raised inside. Absolutely insane. You're putting her in danger. Grace Wellington's voice, sharp with anger. I'm protecting her. Damien's tone was ice. This is the only way. She's a child, Damien. What you're asking? I know what I'm asking. A pause. And I know what happens if I don't. They've already found her. We're out of time. Eleanor's blood went cold. She pushed the door open. Both adults turned. Grace looked stricken. Damien's face was a mask of control, but something desperate lurked in his eyes. Eleanor. He straightened. We need to talk. Grace shot him a furious look before brushing past Eleanor. I hope you know what you're doing, she muttered. When the door closed, silence stretched between them. Who's found me? Eleanor demanded. What's going on? Damien moved to his desk, pulled out a folder. When he opened it, Eleanor saw photographs of her, walking to the building, entering the apartment, with Thomas at the park. Someone had been following her. 3 weeks ago, when you walked into my conference room, you walked into something much bigger than a translation job. Damien's voice was carefully controlled. I'm not just a venture capitalist, Eleanor. I'm also working with the FBI to expose a network of Russian oligarchs who are using American companies to launder money and steal technology. Eleanor's legs went weak. She sank into a chair. The translation job was real, Damien continued, but it was also bait. I needed someone no one would suspect, someone brilliant enough to catch what others miss. Someone disposable, Eleanor finished, anger rising like bile. Someone who wouldn't be missed if things went wrong. No, Damien moved toward her, urgent. Someone invisible. They're looking for FBI plants, for corporate spies. They'd never suspect a 12-year-old girl. You're the perfect weapon. Eleanor stood, hands shaking. You used me. Everything. The apartment, the school, the promises. It was all manipulation. It was survival. Damien's mask cracked, showing raw desperation beneath. Yes, I needed you for this operation, but everything I gave you is real. The apartment is yours. Thomas's education is secure. I wasn't lying about protecting you. You were lying about everything else. I was trying to keep you alive. His voice rose. Do you understand who these people are? The Volkov Corporation isn't just an energy company. They're connected to the Russian intelligence service, to organized crime. They've killed journalists, whistleblowers, anyone who gets too close to their secrets. And now they know you're working for me. Terror washed over Eleanor. Thomas is safe. I have security on him 24/7. He doesn't know, won't ever know. But you... Damien pulled out another photograph. This was taken yesterday. A man stood outside Eleanor's building. Tall, cold-eyed, with a scar running down his left cheek. His name is Viktor Kozlov. Former Spetsnaz, now he works for Mikhail Volkov personally. He's here to figure out if you're just a translator or something more. Eleanor's hands wouldn't stop shaking. What do they think I am? They think you might be my daughter. The world tilted. What? Damien sat heavily in his chair, suddenly looking exhausted. I've kept my personal life intensely private. No wife, no public relationships, no children anyone knows about. When I suddenly provide an apartment to a 12-year-old girl and her brother, pay for everything, keep her close, they've drawn conclusions. Wrong conclusions. Useful conclusions. His eyes met hers. If they think you're my daughter, they won't kill you. You're too valuable as leverage. But they will watch you, test you, try to use you against me. Unless we use them first, Eleanor said slowly, understanding dawning. Damien nodded. You continue translating. But now you also listen, observe, report. They'll try to get close to you, thinking they can manipulate a child. They won't expect you to be smarter than they are. This is insane. Yes. I could die. I won't let that happen. Eleanor laughed bitterly. How can you promise that? You can't even promise to tell me the truth. Damien stood, moving around the desk until he was directly in front of her. His eyes were dark with something Eleanor couldn't name. Guilt, determination, fear. You're right. I manipulated you. I should have been honest from the beginning. His voice dropped. But I'm being honest now. These people are monsters. They've hurt countless others, stolen billions, destroyed lives. And if we don't stop them, they'll keep doing it. You have a gift, Eleanor. Not just for languages, but for seeing the truth beneath the lies. I need that gift. The FBI needs it. What if I say no? Then I'll still protect you and Thomas. The apartment is yours regardless. But they won't stop watching you. They'll always wonder what you know, what I told you. The only way you're truly safe is if we finish this. Eleanor thought of Thomas, innocent and happy for the first time in years. Thought of her mother, who'd taught her that some things were worth fighting for. Thought of the photos of Viktor Kozlov outside her building, waiting. She'd walked into this trap with her eyes closed. Now she needed to decide if she'd walk through it with them open. If I do this, she said slowly, I need to know everything. No more lies. Everything, Damien promised. And if something happens to me, Thomas will be taken care of. I've already set up a trust. Grace is named as guardian. He'll want for nothing. Eleanor took a shaking breath. Then I'm in. Relief flooded Damien's face. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Eleanor met his eyes. You said they think I'm your daughter. That only works if I act like it. Which means you need to teach me how to be a Corleone. A slow smile spread across Damien's face. Pride and pain mingled together. Starting tomorrow, you and I are going to be seen everywhere together. Father and daughter building a public relationship. They'll be watching every moment. Let them watch, Eleanor said quietly. But neither of them knew that in a luxury hotel 3 blocks away, Viktor Kozlov was placing a call to Moscow, his voice cold as winter. The girl isn't just translating. Corleone's training her. We need to accelerate the timeline. And on the other end of that call, Mikhail Volkov smiled and said 2 words that would change everything. Take her. The transformation from invisible translator to Damien Corleone's daughter happened faster than Eleanor expected. Designer clothes replaced her simple wardrobe. A stylist shaped her unruly hair into something elegant. Damien taught her how to walk into rooms like she belonged there, how to meet powerful people's eyes without flinching, how to smile while revealing nothing. Confidence isn't about not being afraid, he told her during one of their coaching sessions. It's about being terrified and doing it anyway. They were photographed at charity galas, art openings, expensive restaurants. Damien's hand on her shoulder, protective and proud. The media ate it up. Billionaire's secret daughter, finally acknowledged. Speculation ran wild about her mother, her past, why Damien had hidden her. Let them speculate. Every false story was armor. But the real work happened in the shadows. Eleanor translated documents that revealed shell companies, traced money through Byzantine financial networks, identified which American executives were being bribed or blackmailed. Each discovery was a piece of a massive puzzle the FBI was building toward indictments. And through it all, Viktor Kozlov watched. She saw him everywhere now. Across the street from her building. In the lobby of Corleone Tower. Once, terrifyingly, in the same restaurant where she and Damien were having dinner. "He wants you to know he's there," Damien said quietly that night, noticing her fear. "It's intimidation. It's working." His hand covered hers on the table. A gesture that looked paternal but felt like a promise. "He won't touch you. Not while you're with me." But Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted. For weeks into their public charade, Damien took Eleanor to a private art gallery opening. The real reason: Mikhail Volkov himself would be there, and the FBI wanted Eleanor to observe him, to hear how he spoke, to read the subtext beneath his words. The gallery was all white walls and dramatic lighting, abstract paintings that probably cost more than Eleanor's old life. Damien introduced her to collector after collector, politician after businessman, each interaction a carefully choreographed performance. Then Mikhail Volkov appeared. He was shorter than Eleanor expected, mid-50s with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. His suit was impeccable, his smile warm and utterly false. "Damien." His accent was thick, deliberate. "And this must be the famous daughter everyone speaks of." "Eleanor," Damien said, his hand tightening on her shoulder in warning. "This is Mikhail Volkov." Volkov extended his hand. Eleanor forced herself to take it. His grip was firm, cold, and lasted a fraction too long. Enchanted. His eyes studied her face like he was memorizing every detail. "Your father has kept you hidden for so long. We were beginning to think you were a myth." "I prefer privacy," Eleanor said, keeping her voice steady. "Wise. The world can be dangerous for children of powerful men." Something predatory flickered in his expression. "But now you are here, visible. That takes courage. Or perhaps foolishness." "Eleanor is braver than anyone I know," Damien said coolly. "Yes, I imagine she would have to be." Volkov switched to Russian, his tone casual. "Tell me, little one, do you speak my language?" Eleanor's heart hammered. This was a test. Damien had warned her. Never reveal her full abilities unless necessary. "A little," she replied in hesitant Russian, deliberately poor. "My tutor teaches me." Volkov's smile widened. "How charming. Perhaps when you are older you could work for me. I always need bright young people." "Perhaps," Eleanor said, though the thought made her skin crawl. After Volkov moved away, Damien exhaled slowly. "You did perfectly. He thinks you're just a sheltered rich girl playing at languages." But Eleanor had heard something in Volkov's voice, seen something in his eyes. "He knows, Damien. Maybe not everything, but he knows something's wrong. Then we'll be more careful." That night, as Grace drove Eleanor home, a black SUV followed them. It stayed 3 cars back, perfectly positioned, making no attempt to hide. Eleanor's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your brother is adorable. Does he know what his sister really does?" Terror flooded her veins. "Grace, I see them." Grace's voice was tight. She picked up her phone, called someone. "We have a tale. Send backup to the apartment. Now." The next 20 minutes were the longest of Eleanor's life. The SUV followed them all the way to her building, only peeling away when 2 other cars, FBI, Eleanor realized, appeared behind it. When she burst into the apartment, Thomas was safe, playing video games with a man Eleanor recognized as one of Damien's security team. She grabbed her brother, held him so tight he protested. "Ellie, what's wrong?" "Nothing." She forced herself to release him, to smile. "I just missed you." After Thomas went to bed, Eleanor stood at the window, staring at the dark street below. Her phone rang. They threatened Thomas. Her voice was flat when Damien answered. "I know. Grace told me." He sounded furious. "I'm doubling security. They won't get near him. You promised to keep us safe. And I will." "Eleanor, this means we're close. They're scared. Scared people make mistakes. Scared people also kill children." Silence on the line. Then, quietly, "I won't let that happen. I swear on everything I have. I will protect you both." Eleanor wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that somehow this would end well, that they'd win, that she and Thomas would survive. But she'd learned young that wanting something didn't make it true. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon, in the most unexpected way. Eleanor was in Damien's office, translating a particularly dense contract, when his door burst open. Grace entered, her face pale, carrying a tablet like it might explode. "We have a problem," she said. Damien looked up sharply. "What kind?" Grace handed him the tablet. Whatever he saw there made his face go completely white. "Get out," he told Eleanor. "No." Grace's voice was steel. "She needs to see this. It's about her." Damien's jaw clenched, but he turned the tablet so Eleanor could see. A news article. Not mainstream, some conspiracy theory website she'd never heard of. But the headline made her stomach drop. "Billionaire's daughter or FBI plant? The truth about Eleanor Shepard." Below it, photos. Of her entering the FBI field office with Damien 3 weeks ago. Of her apartment building with a caption identifying it as FBI secured housing. Of documents, blurred but recognizable, showing her name on federal contractor paperwork. How did they? Eleanor couldn't finish. Someone leaked it. Damien's voice was dangerously quiet. Someone inside the investigation. It gets worse. Grace pulled up another screen. This went live 20 minutes ago. It's already been shared 15,000 times. Russian news outlets are picking it up. And, she hesitated. Volkov's team has definitely seen it. Eleanor's phone buzzed. Then again. And again. Text messages. All from blocked numbers. "Little spy. Did you really think we wouldn't find out? Such a shame. You seemed like a sweet girl." Her hands started shaking. "Turn off your phone," Damien ordered. He was already dialing. "This is Corleone. We need an emergency extraction for..." He paused, listening. His face went from white to gray. "What do you mean they won't authorize it?" Eleanor watched as he argued with whoever was on the other end. His voice rising, his control fracturing. Finally, he threw the phone across the room, where it shattered against the wall. "The FBI is pulling out," he said, voice hollow. "They say the investigation is compromised. They're shutting everything down." "And Eleanor?" Grace demanded. "Is on her own. They claim she was never officially part of the operation, never had protection status. If Volkov's people come after her, it's not their problem." The room spun. Eleanor gripped the edge of the desk. "Thomas," she whispered. Damien was already moving. "Grace, get to the school. Extract Thomas. Take him to the safe house in Connecticut." Grace ran. Damien turned to Eleanor, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw genuine fear in his eyes. "I'm going to fix this. I have resources the FBI doesn't. I can keep you safe. You promised me no more lies." Eleanor's voice shook. "Were you ever going to tell me I wasn't actually protected? That I was doing this without any legal backing?" He had the grace to look ashamed. "I thought I could control the situation." "You thought wrong." Her phone, which she hadn't turned off, buzzed one more time. Against her better judgment, Eleanor looked. A photo of Thomas at school, taken today, with a message. Cute kid. Would hate for something to happen to him. Eleanor's vision went red. She rounded on Damien, fury burning through her fear. "You did this. You put us in danger. You used a 12-year-old girl and her little brother as bait, and now we're going to die because you wanted to play hero." "Eleanor, don't." She backed toward the door. "Grace will get Thomas to safety. But I'm done. I'm done being your weapon, your pawn, your pretend daughter." "It's not pretend." The words exploded out of Damien. "None of it is pretend anymore." Eleanor froze. Damien ran a hand through his hair, looking devastated. "It was supposed to be a cover story, a useful lie. But these past 2 months, watching you with Thomas, seeing your courage, your brilliant mind, the way you make me want to be the man you think I am," his voice cracked. "I don't have children. Never wanted them. My life was too dangerous, too complicated. But if I did, if I could, I would want her to be exactly like you. Tears burned Eleanor's eyes. You don't mean that. You're just trying to manipulate me again. I mean it more than I've meant anything. He moved closer, carefully, like approaching something wild and wounded. And that's why you need to run. They'll use you to get to me. Use Thomas. You need to disappear. Change your names. Start over somewhere they'll never find you. With what money? What resources? Damien pulled a small bag from his desk drawer. Inside, passports, credit cards in different names, cash in multiple currencies, and a phone. I've been preparing this since the moment I realized they'd figured out who you were. He pressed it into her hands. There's $5 million in an untraceable account. Everything you need to vanish. Eleanor stared at the bag, at her escape, at the end of everything. Come with us, she said suddenly. Damien smiled, sad and broken. I can't. Someone needs to stay here to make them think you're still in play, to draw their attention. Besides, they want me. If I disappear, they'll hunt you forever. If I stay, they'll kill you. Maybe. He touched her cheek, gentle. But you'll be safe. That's all that matters. Before Eleanor could respond, before she could process what he'd just offered to sacrifice, the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. And from somewhere in the building came the sound of gunfire. Damien grabbed Eleanor's arm, his voice urgent. The service elevator. Now. They ran, the sound of bullets and shouting getting closer. Behind them, the office door splintered. Viktor Kozlov stood in the doorway, gun raised, smiling. Going somewhere, little spy? He asked. And in that moment, Eleanor realized that everything, the escape plan, the passports, the $5 million, had all been one more beautiful lie. There was no escape. There never had been. Hello, lovely people. Before we continue, drop a comment telling me what you think happens next. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Join the Ducal family. Hit that subscribe button because Eleanor's story is about to get even more intense, and you won't want to miss a single moment. Time fractured into impossible fragments. Viktor Kozlov's gun aimed at Eleanor's chest. Damien's body moving between them. The deafening crack of a gunshot that seemed to split the world in half. Then they were falling. Not from a bullet, but from Damien tackling her through a door she hadn't noticed, into a narrow service corridor she didn't know existed. Move! Damien's voice was raw, terrified. They ran through a maze of passages, maintenance corridors that threaded through the building skeleton like secret veins. Behind them, footsteps echoed. Voices shouted in Russian. Eleanor's lungs burned. Her legs screamed. But fear was a powerful engine, and she ran faster than she'd ever run in her life. Damien pulled her into a supply closet, his hand over her mouth, both of them pressed against shelving units that dug into her back. Through the crack in the door, she watched shadows pass. Viktor Kozlov's voice drifted by, cold and patient. The building is surrounded, Mr. Corleone. There is nowhere to go. Give us the girl, and we will let you live. Damien's hand tightened on Eleanor's shoulder. In the darkness, his eyes found hers, and what she saw there made her heart break. He was going to surrender himself, trade his life for hers. Eleanor shook her head violently. No. But before Damien could move, his phone vibrated. He pulled it out with shaking hands, read the message, and his face went absolutely gray. He turned the screen toward Eleanor. A video of Thomas, sitting in a car that wasn't Grace's. Next to him, a man with a gun. Her brother's face was tear-streaked, terrified. The message below, you have 1 hour. Bring Eleanor to Pier 47 or the boy dies. Eleanor's world imploded. Grace? She whispered, barely able to form words. I don't know. Damien's voice was hollow. They must have intercepted her before she reached the school. Eleanor couldn't breathe. Thomas, her baby brother, the only family she had left, the one person she'd done all of this to protect. We go to the pier, she said. Eleanor, we go to the pier and we trade me for Thomas. That's the only option. It's a trap. They'll kill you both. Then what? Eleanor grabbed his shirt, desperate. What do we do? Let them murder my brother? He's 6 years old. Damien. 6. Damien pulled her against him, holding her tight while she shattered. She felt his heart hammering against her ear, felt him trembling with the same terror that consumed her. "There's another way," he said finally. "A worse way, but it might work." He pulled back, gripped her shoulders, forced her to meet his eyes. "I turn myself in to the FBI. Confess everything, the illegal surveillance, the use of a minor in a federal operation without authorization, all of it. They'll have to intervene to save face. They can't let a child die on their watch. They already abandoned us. That was politics. This will be public. I'll make sure every media outlet in the city knows what's happening. They'll have no choice." Eleanor understood what he wasn't saying. "They'll arrest you for everything you've done. Yes, you could go to prison. Probably will." His smile was broken. "But Thomas lives. You live. That's all that matters." "Damien, I'm calling Agent Morrison now. You're going to hide here until the FBI arrives. They'll secure Thomas, and then you both disappear into witness protection. New names, new lives, far away from all of this. And you." He touched her face, gentle, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'll pay for my sins. I deserve to. You saved us. You gave us everything. I used you, put you in danger, nearly got you killed." His voice cracked. "I'm so sorry, Eleanor. For all of it." Eleanor grabbed his hand, held it against her cheek. "You gave me hope when I had none. You made Thomas smile again. You—" She couldn't finish. Damien pulled her close one more time, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "Be extraordinary," he whispered. "Change the world. That's all I ask." Then he was gone, slipping out of the supply closet, his phone already to his ear. Eleanor stood alone in the darkness, listening to his footsteps fade. 45 minutes later, federal agents swarmed the building. They found Eleanor exactly where Damien said she'd be and extracted her to a safe location. Some anonymous office building where Agent Morrison, a severe woman with iron-gray hair, explained what would happen next. "Your brother is safe. We intercepted the vehicle 7 minutes ago. He's being taken to a secure facility." Relief nearly knocked Eleanor to her knees. "And Damien?" Morrison's expression hardened. "Mr. Corleone is in federal custody. He'll be charged with multiple violations: illegal surveillance, endangerment of a minor, obstruction of justice. He's looking at significant prison time. He saved us. He also broke the law, repeatedly, with full awareness of the consequences." Morrison leaned forward. "You understand that you and your brother will need to enter witness protection? New identities, new city, complete separation from your former lives." "I understand. Including no contact with Damien Corleone. Ever." The words hit like a physical blow. "But those are the terms. Non-negotiable." Eleanor wanted to scream, to rage, to tear the world apart. Instead, she nodded, numb. They took her to see Thomas that night. He ran into her arms, sobbing, and Eleanor held him while her own tears soaked into his hair. "I was so scared, Ellie." "I know, baby. I know. But we're safe now." "Where's Damien? He said he'd keep us safe." Eleanor closed her eyes against the pain. "He did. He kept his promise." Over Thomas's head, she saw a television mounted on the wall. The news was showing footage of Damien in handcuffs, being led into federal court. The headline read, "Billionaire arrested in FBI corruption scandal." He looked directly at the camera for just a moment, and Eleanor knew, somehow knew, he was looking at her, saying goodbye. 2 weeks later, Eleanor Shepard ceased to exist. The girl who boarded a plane to Portland with her brother had a different name, a different history, a different future. She carried only a small bag of clothes and a prepaid phone that would be destroyed upon arrival. As the plane lifted into gray clouds, Eleanor pressed her forehead against the window and let herself cry, for everything she'd lost, for the man who'd sacrificed himself to save them, for the life that might have been if the world had been kinder. Thomas, asleep beside her, stirred and mumbled, "Ellie, I'm here," she whispered. "Always." But what Eleanor didn't know What she couldn't possibly know as the plane carried her toward her new life was that in a maximum security holding cell, Damien Corleone was making a call to someone who owed him a very old, very dangerous favor. And in Moscow, Mikhail Volkov was receiving a message that made him smile. The girl has vanished, but we have something better. We have leverage. The game wasn't over. It had only just begun. 6 months disappeared into the gray routine of their new life. Eleanor, now called Emma Morrison, ironically sharing a surname with the agent who'd relocated them, lived in a modest apartment in Portland's outskirts. Thomas, now Tyler, attended a public school where nobody knew their real story. Eleanor tutored ESL students online, using her language skills to earn money while keeping a low profile. It was safe. It was quiet. It was slowly suffocating her. Every night, she dreamed of Damien in prison. Every morning, she woke with his last words echoing in her mind. Be extraordinary. Change the world. But how could she change the world when she'd been erased from it? Thomas was adjusting better than she'd hoped. He'd made friends, joined soccer, started laughing again. He rarely mentioned their old life, and when he did, it was always about the apartment, the school, never about Damien. Eleanor wondered if he blamed her for losing it all. She was walking home from the library one October afternoon when she noticed the car. Black sedan, tinted windows, parked across from her building. The same car she'd seen yesterday, and the day before. Eleanor's blood went cold. She took a circuitous route home, watching for tails, her old instincts awakening. When she finally entered the apartment, she checked every room, every closet, making sure Thomas was safe at his after-school program. Her phone rang, the new one, the one only the FBI had the number for. Hello, Emma Morrison? A man's voice, unfamiliar, with a faint accent she couldn't place. Who is this? Someone who knows your real name, your real story, and most importantly, someone who knows where Damien Corleone really is. Eleanor's heart stopped. What are you talking about? He's in federal prison. He was, for approximately 48 hours. Then he vanished from the system. No transfer records, no release papers, no death certificate. Just gone. That's impossible. Many things are impossible until they happen, Eleanor. The use of her real name made her skin crawl. Check your email. The one you think nobody knows about. The line went dead. With shaking hands, Eleanor opened her laptop, navigated to an encrypted email account she'd set up in secret. Her one small rebellion against witness protection's rules. One new message. No subject line. Just an attachment. A video file. Eleanor's finger hovered over it for a long moment before she clicked. The video was grainy, time-stamped 3 days ago. A warehouse somewhere vast and empty. And in the center, tied to a chair, beaten badly but unmistakably alive. Damien. Eleanor's scream caught in her throat. Figure moved into frame. Tall, cold-eyed, with a scar running down his left cheek. Viktor Kozlov. Hello, little spy, he said, addressing the camera, addressing Eleanor. As you can see, your protector is not quite as gone as you believed. We made a deal with certain powerful people. They gave us Corleone. We gave them assurances that the Volkov Corporation would be very cooperative in future endeavors. He circled Damien like a predator. He has been quite stubborn. Refuses to tell us where you are, though we have been very persuasive. I admire loyalty, even in enemies. Kozlov leaned close to the camera, his smile sharp as broken glass. But I am bored with this game. So here is my offer, Eleanor Shepard. You have 72 hours to contact me at this number. He held up a card. And arrange a meeting. You for him. Simple exchange. If you do not call, I will kill him. Slowly. Painfully. And then I will find your little brother. Yes, we know about Tyler Morrison in Portland. And I will make him watch videos of what we did to Damien before I kill him too. The screen went black. Eleanor sat frozen, ice flooding her veins. Damien was alive. Damien was being tortured. Because of her. And they knew about Thomas. Her phone rang again, the burner phone, the emergency FBI line. Agent Morrison, is not available. A different voice. Older, male, tired. This is Deputy Director Ross. I'm aware of the video you just received, Miss Shepard. How? We've been monitoring potential threats. The video was sent to you and to us simultaneously. It's a provocation, designed to draw you out. He's alive. Damien is alive and they're torturing him. We're aware. The casual tone ignited rage in Eleanor's chest. Then get him out. It's not that simple. Corleone was taken by individuals with significant governmental protection. We can't just raid a foreign intelligence assets facility. So you're going to let him die? Silence. Then, we're exploring diplomatic channels. Diplomatic channels. Eleanor laughed, bitter and broken. He'll be dead before you finish filling out the paperwork. Miss Shepard, you need to stay where you are. Do not engage with these people. Your safety and your brother's safety depend on. Eleanor hung up. She sat in the silence of her small apartment, staring at the frozen image of Damien on her screen. Bloody, beaten, but his eyes still fierce, still fighting. I will protect you, he'd promised. Whatever happens. And he had. He'd sacrificed everything. His freedom, his empire, his life, to keep that promise. Now it was her turn. Eleanor pulled out a different phone. One she'd bought secretly. One nobody knew existed. She dialed the number Kozlov had shown in the video. He answered on the first ring. I was hoping you'd be smart. I'm coming for him, Eleanor said, her voice steady despite her terror. But not the way you think. Oh, you want me? You want revenge? Then you're going to have to earn it. She took a breath. I have copies of everything. Every document I translated, every piece of evidence against the Volkov Corporation. I've hidden them in 6 different locations with 6 different people, all of whom have instructions to release everything to international media if I don't check in every 12 hours. It was a complete bluff. But her voice didn't waver. Kozlov was quiet for a moment. You are lying. Am I? Test me. Kill Damien. Kill me. See what happens to Volkov's empire when the world learns exactly what you've been doing. Another pause. What do you want? A meeting. Public place. You bring Damien, alive and relatively unharmed. I bring the locations of the evidence. We make a trade, the information for both our lives. You think I will honor such a deal? No. But I think Mikhail Volkov is smart enough to know that dead martyrs are more dangerous than living hostages. And I think he'd rather have a chance at recovering the evidence than guarantee its release. Eleanor could almost hear Kozlov's smile. You have become interesting, little spy. More than just a translator. Damien taught me well. Yes, he did. Kozlov's voice turned cold. 48 hours. I will send you the location. Come alone or he dies. Bring anyone, FBI, police, even a homeless person who looks suspicious, and he dies. Try to run and your brother dies. I understand. Good. I look forward to meeting the real Eleanor Shepard. Not the frightened child, but the woman she has become. The line went dead. Eleanor sat motionless, her mind racing through impossible calculations. She had 48 hours to save Damien's life with evidence she didn't have, skills she'd barely learned, and resources that amounted to $1,700 in savings. It was unbelievable. It was also the only choice that mattered. She opened her laptop and began to type an email, not to the FBI, not to any official authority, to someone else. Someone Damien had mentioned once, in passing, during one of their late-night conversations. Grace Wellington. If you're reading this, I need help. The kind Damien would have given without hesitation. The kind that doesn't go through official channels. She hit send and waited. 3 minutes later, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I've been waiting for you to reach out. Tell me what you need. Eleanor smiled for the first time in 6 months. Not a happy smile. A dangerous one. I need to become someone terrifying. She typed back. I need to become someone Viktor Kozlov will regret underestimating. And I need to do it in 48 hours. The response came instantly. Then let's get to work. Damien always said you were extraordinary. Time to prove him right. Grace Wellington arrived in Portland 12 hours later with 3 other people Eleanor had never met. They gathered in a warehouse Grace had secured. Empty, anonymous, perfect for what they needed to do. "This is Nikolai," Grace said, gesturing to a broad-shouldered man with kind eyes. "Former Russian intelligence, turned whistleblower. He's been helping Damien track Volkov for years." Sophia, a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s, nodded. "Tech specialist. I can make it look like your evidence exists in all the places you claimed." "And this is James." An older black man with silver at his temples smiled warmly. "I was the judge who gave Damien his second chance 30 years ago. I've been helping him pay it forward ever since." Eleanor stared at them, overwhelmed. "Why are you doing this?" "Because Damien Corleone saved my daughter's life," Nikolai said quietly. "Paid for her cancer treatment when I had nothing. He gave me a job when no one else would hire a woman with a record," Sophia added. James simply said, "Because some debts can never be repaid, only passed forward." Grace squeezed Eleanor's shoulder. "You're not alone in this. You never were." Over the next 36 hours, they built a trap. Sophia created a digital footprint that made it look like Eleanor had indeed hidden evidence in 6 locations, complete with encrypted files, dummy accounts, and automated deadman switches. It was brilliant, layered, convincing enough that even Eleanor almost believed it. Nikolai taught her how to move, how to fight, how to survive if things went wrong. "You are small," he said. "That is advantage. They expect fear. Give them steel instead." James used his connections to position assets. Not FBI, not official, but people who owed favors, who existed in the gray spaces between legal and necessary. And Grace taught her the most important lesson. You've been thinking of yourself as prey, as someone who needs protecting. That ends now. You walk into that meeting as someone dangerous, someone they should fear. "I'm 13 years old," Eleanor whispered. "You're a survivor who's already beaten them once, who learned from Damien Corleone himself, who has nothing left to lose and everything to fight for." Grace's eyes were fierce. "You're the most dangerous person in that room. Make sure they know it." The meeting was set at Pike Place Market. Crowded, public, dozens of exits. Kozlov wasn't stupid. Eleanor arrived 30 minutes early, wearing clothes Sophia had selected, simple, unremarkable, with hidden pockets containing the tools Nikolai had given her. Her hair was pulled back. Her face was calm. She looked like prey. That was the point. Damien appeared first, flanked by 2 of Kozlov's men. He was thinner, bruised, moving carefully like his ribs hurt. But when his eyes found Eleanor across the crowded market, something blazed in them. Terror and pride and desperate love. She wanted to run to him. Instead, she stayed perfectly still. Kozlov emerged from the crowd like a shark through dark water. He smiled when he saw her. "Eleanor Shepard, you are punctual. I appreciate this. Where's the rest of your team?" Eleanor asked calmly. "Nearby, watching, as I am sure your friends are." His eyes scanned the crowd. "Though I see no FBI. Good. I keep my promises." Eleanor stepped closer. "Unlike you. We shall see." Kozlov pulled out a tablet. "Show me the evidence locations. All 6. Then we discuss terms." Eleanor pulled out her own phone, the one Sophia had prepared. She opened an app that displayed 6 different locations, each with encrypted files, each with a countdown timer. "These timers reset every 12 hours when I enter a code. If I don't enter it or if I die, the files automatically upload to every major news organization in the world. Everything Volkov has done, everyone he's bribed, every crime, every murder, every stolen dollar." Kozlov's eyes narrowed. "Show me the files." "Can't. They're encrypted with biometric locks. Only I can access them and only from the physical locations. That was the point, to make sure killing me doesn't get you what you want. It was all lies. Beautiful, layered, perfect lies." Kozlov studied her for a long moment. Then he laughed. "Damien taught you very well. You are not the frightened child anymore." "No, I'm not. So, we have a problem. Cannot let you live. But I cannot afford for those files to be released." "Then we're at an impasse." "Perhaps not." Kozlov gestured. and one of his men pressed a gun to Damien's head. "You will give me the access codes, the real ones, or I will kill him here, in front of all these people, and then I will find your brother and do worse." Eleanor's heart hammered. This was the moment, the point where everything could shatter. She looked at Damien. His eyes begged her to run, to save herself, to let him die. Instead, she smiled. "You're right," she said. "Damien did teach me well. He taught me that the most powerful weapon isn't violence or money. It's information, and the courage to use it." She raised her voice, addressing the crowd that had been slowly, subtly gathering closer. Not random shoppers, but James's people, Grace's contacts, men and women who'd been positioned throughout the market. "My name is Eleanor Shepard. This man," she pointed at Kozlov, "works for Mikhail Volkov of the Volkov Corporation. 6 months ago, I helped expose their money laundering operation. They've been hunting me ever since. They kidnapped and tortured Damien Corleone to find me. And now they're threatening to kill us both." Kozlov's face went white with fury. "You stupid girl. Everyone here is filming this. It's already uploading to social media, to news outlets. You can kill us, but you'll do it on camera, in front of witnesses, with the whole world watching." She'd learned this from Damien. Sometimes the best weapon was sunlight. Kozlov's hand moved toward his gun. But around him, phones were rising, dozens of them, all recording. James's people, yes, but also real bystanders, drawn by the drama, documenting everything. "You think this changes anything?" Kozlov snarled. "I think it changes everything." Eleanor's voice didn't waver. "Because you're not just a hired killer anymore. You're famous. Your face is being shared right now. By morning, every intelligence agency, every law enforcement organization, every journalist will know exactly who you are and what you've done. Then we die together. Maybe, but Volkov loses either way. And you lose the one thing you actually care about, anonymity." Eleanor took a step closer, fearless now. "You can't operate in shadows anymore. Every border, every safe house, every asset you have is compromised. You're finished, Kozlov. Not because we beat you, because you made the mistake of thinking I was still that scared little girl." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Kozlov lowered his gun. "You have made a powerful enemy today. I already had one. Now I've just made sure you can't hide anymore." Kozlov gestured to his men. They released Damien, who stumbled forward. Eleanor caught him, her arms barely strong enough to hold his weight. "This is not over," Kozlov said quietly, backing into the crowd. "Yes," Eleanor replied. "It is." Kozlov vanished, and Eleanor knew he'd run. Back to Moscow, back to Volkov, to report his failure. They'd regroup, plan revenge, but it wouldn't be today. Today they'd lost. Damien's weight sagged against her. "Eleanor," he whispered, "you magnificent, terrifying child. What have you done? I saved us." She looked up at him, tears finally breaking free. "Like you saved me." Grace appeared from the crowd, Nikolai beside her. "We need to move, now, before anyone official arrives." They hustled Damien to a waiting car. As Portland disappeared behind them, Eleanor sat beside him, holding his hand while Sophia's contact, a doctor, examined his injuries in the back seat. "Broken ribs, multiple contusions, dehydration," the doctor reported. "But he'll live." Damien turned his head to look at Eleanor. "You built an entire operation in 48 hours, with smoke and mirrors. I learned from the best. The evidence doesn't exist. Never did. Just a beautiful bluff." Damien started laughing, then stopped, wincing at his ribs. "You're extraordinary. I always knew you would be." "We're not safe yet," Grace warned from the front seat. "The FBI will want answers. Volkov will want revenge. And we're all fugitives now." "Then we run," Eleanor said simply. "Together. All of us. We disappear, regroup, and we finish what we started." She looked at each of them, Grace, Nikolai, Sophia, James, at this family Damien had built from broken pieces and second chances. "Volkov thinks he's won because we're hiding. But we're not hiding. We're preparing. And when we're ready, we're going to destroy him. Damien squeezed her hand. When did you become so fearless? Eleanor smiled, fierce and bright. The moment I realized I had something worth fighting for. Not just survival, but justice. For everyone he's hurt. Everyone like us. Then let's give them justice, Damien said quietly. Together. 18 months vanished like smoke. The world forgot about Eleanor Shepard and Damien Corleone. The media moved on to newer scandals, fresher tragedies. The FBI closed its files, frustrated by leads that went nowhere. Even Volkov stopped actively hunting them, content to believe they'd been swallowed by anonymity. But they hadn't disappeared. They'd been building. In a small coastal town in Northern California, a foundation quietly opened its doors. The Second Chance Institute, it was called, a place for gifted children from impossible circumstances. Full scholarships, housing, mentorship, protection. Eleanor stood on the porch of the main building, watching the first group of students arrive. 15 kids, ages 10 to 17, each carrying stories that would break hearts. Each brilliant, resilient, hungry for the opportunity they'd been denied. She was 14 now, taller, her voice steadier, her eyes older than any 14-year-olds should be. But when Thomas ran up beside her, 8 now, gangly and bright, she smiled like the child she occasionally still got to be. Are you nervous? Thomas asked. Terrified, Eleanor admitted. You saved Damien from Russian assassins. You can handle teaching some kids. She laughed. Different kind of scary. Damien emerged from the building behind them, moving easier now, his ribs long healed. He'd grown a beard, let his hair go slightly longer, small changes that made him less recognizable to the few people who might still be looking. They're here, he said quietly. Grace appeared beside him, tablet in hand. All 15 accounted for. Backgrounds checked. Families secured. We're ready. The students filed in, nervous and curious. Eleanor watched their faces, saw her own younger self in their uncertainty, their desperate hope. After the orientation, after dinner, after the chaos of first day nerves settled, Eleanor stood in front of the group in what would become their common room. My name is Eleanor, she began. 18 months ago, I was exactly where you are. Brilliant but broke. Talented but trapped. Invisible to everyone who mattered. She told them her story. Not all of it, but enough. About translating for $600. About Damien's offer. About learning that value had nothing to do with bank accounts and everything to do with courage. This place exists because someone gave me a chance when I had nothing, she said. Now we're giving you the same chance. Not charity, not pity, but opportunity to become who you're meant to be, to use your gifts, to change the world that tried to break you. A girl in the back, maybe 12, with fierce dark eyes, raised her hand. What if we fail? Then you fail surrounded by people who won't let you stay down. Eleanor smiled. That's what family does. Late that night, Eleanor sat with Damien on the porch, watching stars emerge over the Pacific. I got word from Nikolai today, Damien said quietly. The evidence Sophia and I actually compiled, the real evidence, was delivered to the International Criminal Court. Volkov was arrested in Geneva 3 hours ago. Eleanor's breath caught. Really? Really? Along with 12 of his top associates. The Volkov Corporation is finished. The money laundering network is exposed. It's over, Eleanor. We won. Tears burned her eyes. My mother would have been proud. She would have been awed. Damien put his arm around her shoulders. Casual now, familiar, the gesture of someone who'd earned the right. You did what trained agents couldn't. What governments failed to do. You took down an empire armed with nothing but brilliance and audacity. We did it. All of us. You started it. That day in the boardroom when you refused to be invisible. Eleanor leaned against him, comfortable in a way she'd never imagined possible. Are we safe now? Really safe. Safer. There are always new threats, new challenges. But yes, for the first time in a long time, we can breathe. What happens to us now? Damien was quiet for a moment. What do you want to happen? Eleanor thought about the students inside, about Thomas laughing with new friends, about Grace planning curriculum and Nikolai teaching security protocols and Sophia building digital safeguards. "I want to do this forever," she said. "Find kids like us. Give them chances. Build something good from all the bad we survived. Then that's what we'll do." Damien squeezed her shoulder. "Though I have to warn you, Grace enrolled you in proper school. Starting Monday, you'll actually have to attend classes like a normal teenager." Eleanor groaned. "Can't I just translate Russian contracts instead?" "No. You need an education. A real one. Friends your own age. Normalcy. Normalcy is overrated," says the girl who helped take down an international crime syndicate at 13. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the waves roll in under distant stars. "Damien," Eleanor said softly, "thank you for seeing me when everyone else looked away." "Eleanor," he replied, his voice thick with emotion, "you saved me long before I saved you. You reminded me why I do this, why any of it matters. Thank you for that." Inside, Thomas called for his sister, something about a game he wanted to show her. Eleanor stood, but paused at the door. "You know what's funny? I thought that day in the boardroom was the worst moment of my life. Everyone laughing at me, thinking I was nothing. And now I realize it was the best, because it brought me here, to this." She gestured at the building, at the new family they'd built, at the future stretching bright before them. Damien smiled. "To second chances. To second chances," Eleanor agreed. 3 months later, the ceremony was small, private, just family. But to Eleanor, family meant more now than bloodlines. She stood in a courtroom very different from the federal one where Damien had been arrested. This one was warm, wood-paneled, presided over by Judge James Morrison himself. "Eleanor Shepard," James said, his voice formal but kind, "Damien Corleone has petitioned for legal guardianship of both you and your brother Thomas. Do you consent to this arrangement?" Eleanor looked at Damien, at the man who'd laughed at her once and now stood ready to become her family in every way that mattered. "Yes," she said clearly. "I do." Thomas, beside her, bounced on his toes. "Does this mean Damien's officially our dad?" "Legally," James smiled, "though I suspect he's been your family for quite some time." After the papers were signed, after the official words were spoken, they gathered on the courthouse steps. Grace took photos while Nikolai and Sophia watched, both suspiciously misty-eyed. "We're a weird family," Thomas observed. "The best families are," Grace said, ruffling his hair. Eleanor looked at each of them, at the people who'd risked everything to save her, who'd built a new life from the ashes of their old ones, who'd chosen to be family when biology and circumstance had failed them. "I love you," she said simply. "All of you." Damien pulled her close, Thomas wrapped in his other arm. "We love you too, Eleanor. Both of you. Forever." As they walked to the car, Eleanor caught her reflection in a window. She looked different from the scared 12-year-old in borrowed clothes who'd walked into that boardroom 18 months ago. She looked strong. She looked certain. She looked like someone who'd survived impossible things and built something beautiful from the wreckage. She looked extraordinary. Eleanor Shepard, now legally Eleanor Corleone, stood at a podium in the UN General Assembly, 19 years old and already legendary in diplomatic circles. She just finished translating a critical peace negotiation between 6 nations, her fluency in 12 languages making her indispensable. But more than her skill, it was her presence, calm, brilliant, unshakable, that made world leaders listen. After the session, reporters swarmed her. "Miss Corleone, is it true you started as a translator at age 12? How does your father feel about your UN appointment? What advice would you give to young people facing poverty?" Eleanor smiled at the cameras, poised and professional. "I tell them what someone once told me. Brilliance doesn't care about bank accounts. Your circumstances don't define your worth. And sometimes the people who laugh at you become the people who learn from you." "Are you referring to your father?" "I'm referring to everyone who's ever been underestimated." Her smile turned fierce. "We're not the exception. We're the rule. And we're going to change everything." That night, she called home to California, where Damien was running the institute, now with 300 students across 5 locations. How was the UN? He asked. Same as that boardroom 5 years ago. People doubting me until I speak. Then silence. Damien laughed. You never get tired of proving them wrong? Never. Eleanor paused. Thomas made Dean's list again. Did you see? I did. He wants to be a pediatric surgeon now. Last month it was astrophysicist. He's 13. He's allowed to change his mind. Like his sister changed the world? Eleanor smiled at the phone, at the man on the other end who'd seen her when she was invisible, who'd believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. I didn't change the world, Damien. You did. 1 second chance at a time. We did it together, he corrected gently. We always will. After they hung up, Eleanor stood at her hotel window overlooking the city, thinking about the girl she'd been and the woman she'd become. She thought about her mother, who'd taught her that knowledge was power. About Thomas, who'd given her a reason to be brave. About Damien, who'd given her a chance when she had nothing. And about all the students at the institute, carrying forward the legacy of second chances, of brilliance recognized, of potential fulfilled. The girl who'd been laughed at for daring to dream had become the woman who made dreams real. Not just for herself, but for everyone who came after. Tell me in the comments, my beautiful ducal family, which moment touched your heart the most? Eleanor's first translation? The rescue at Pike Place Market? Or the ending that brought everything full circle? And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that brilliance can come from anywhere, that second chances matter, that courage is born in impossible moments, please subscribe. Join our family.